Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. From the Popcorn Talk Network and producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and Phil Svitek, this is iTalk Movies. Long-form interviews with leading members of the film industry. And now, your host of iTalk Movies.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of iTalk Movies here at the Popcorn Talk Network. Today we are talking Manson's Lost Girls. Okay, it's the story of Charles Manson and his murderous cult in the summer of 1969. And I'm your host, Ryan Malady. Today, we have with us the actor who plays Charles Manson himself, Mr. Jeff Ward. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan.
Thank you so much for being here. The movie was great. I want to get into it. I'm excited for this interview, but first let's introduce the movie with a little bit of a trailer.
Wonderful.
So,
yes.
Here's the trailer for Manson's Lost Girls.
Need a minute, Ryan.
In just a minute.
We will be getting to that in just a moment.
Most people know about the story of Charles Manson, right? It's an infamous story here in America about this cult that he called the Family. And the strange thing about this cult, I mean, we've seen cults here and there, but this one was full of the girls next door. So,
that's exactly right, yeah.
Who is this Charles Manson, Jeff Ward? Who is this guy?
He was a very little man. He was about 5'3", so he was a very small, mostly by all accounts previous to 1967, a pretty fun guy.
Right. And this is the Summer of Love. Right?
Exactly,
this is the famous psychedelic.
Exactly. And he was up in San Francisco, like really in the heart of it. When a lot of this started, he got out of jail in 1967 and started putting together some followers and some girls that really just liked how he played guitar and kind of sounded smart when he said nonsense.
Real charismatic.
Exactly, yeah.
Here's a guy he came out of jail in 1967, he said. So he spent, he's in and out of jail for like half his life.
His whole life, yeah.
So he's nice, and he knows how to be a criminal. I guess maybe not.
No, he did very much so. From age 10 to 32, he spent 18 of those 22 years in a prison or a reform school.
Wow.
So he was, yeah.
So he gets out of jail and he starts coming after you with ideas of love and peace, but also sex and drugs and
very much so,
mind-altering.
Yeah, he that's what kind of made him so I think interesting to people. Is it was these young, often attractive, very normal people, mostly women, but men too, that kind of were falling into his idea of love and being against possessions and capitalism, and a lot of the ideals that were being fought over between kids and their parents in the 60s. There was obviously a really huge generation gap in that time because of Vietnam, because of so the political situation. I mean, there was so much different. Nixon was like such a bad guy.
But he's not a crook, though.
Hey, look, I mean, I'm going to take his word for that. Right. But yeah, I mean, he was able to kind of use the time and climate to his advantage to get a lot of normal people to kind of just believe in a message of love and freedom and drugs and sex and just the hippie ideal. And then it slowly, because he was such a selfish, sociopathic, horrible person, when he started to not get what he wanted, the power that he had over people, he turned violent. So it was,
and all he wanted to do was
be a musician,
be a rock star.
That's all.
I don't know. I was thinking maybe all he really wanted was to be famous.
You're exactly right.
And you know what? I guess he accomplished that.
And that is what really scares me and upsets me about the story is, he did want to be a rock star, but I think I agree with you. He more than that. He just wanted to be famous.
Wanted to be known.
Exactly.
Leave a legacy.
Exactly. And the irony, Glenn Frey from the Eagles just died, who's like a seminal part of the 60s rock scene, which is all Charlie ever wanted to be. And what's ironic is, when Glenn Frey died, I think a lot of people, I know who he is and a lot of my friends, but a lot of people have no idea who he is, and he was a really important part of that scene.
Sure.
Charlie exceeded his wildest expectations in infamy than he ever would in fame.
Yeah, no kidding. Right?
And it's, you know, it's actually pretty upsetting, but I think that's what resonates so much about the story still.
Yeah, it's definitely safe to say that he was a better cult leader than a musician.
He was, yeah. He was kind of like a lame Dylan as a musician.
A lame Dylan, yeah, exactly. No, he did, but he did actually have, after his infamy, he did have, I believe I read somewhere that some other famous musicians covered his songs.
They did, the Beach Boys.
Beach Boys,
the Beach
right?
Boys, yeah.
Beach Boys and Guns N' Roses.
That's exactly, yeah.
And like
well, the Beach Boys song he actually wrote and collaborated with Dennis Wilson on it, and kind of gave it to Dennis Wilson and just said, "Don't change the lyrics," and then they did, and Charlie got angry. But Marilyn Manson has covered him. Guns N' Roses has covered him. Marilyn Manson got his namesake from him. So
Manson has become, the word Manson, you know,
it says a lot. Yeah,
there's only a couple you know of, and
exactly.
Marilyn and Jimmy Charles, and they're both like kind of off.
Yeah, kind of.
And so let me see. All right, let's do this. Let's take a look at this movie. We can talk through it a little bit.
Please,
but I want to get I want people to see how spot on that they got this. Leslie Libman, she was directing it.
Yes.
And the framing, the cinematography, and the music, it all puts me in that time. It really makes me feel like I'm there. And not to mention the actors just did an uncanny resemblance to these girls. And I gotta say, huge fan of your performance too.
Oh, thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. It was I felt like it was a gift of a character, you know, somebody who's complicated and awful, and you know, kind of a real life villain.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm really happy that you say that, because I agree. I feel like the cinematography and the vibe of the movie is pretty authentically 60s, and you know, I think for the most part it makes for like a pretty good film. I don't know though.
God, it's intense. And you know, it's such a, there you go. And it actually just premiered on Lifetime February 6th. If you have Time Warner or any other kind of cable network, you can look it up and watch it on the Lifetime app.
Exactly, yes.
And you can check out also beyond the headlines afterwards. It gives you more of a real true story, and you get to really see how close that this actor, Jeff Ward, really nailed this guy, Charles Manson, really nailed him, because you know, you could tell it starts off, you really need to understand how charming this fellow was, and how these sweet, innocent girls with children and you know, relatively stable positions in life. Yeah, sure, you know, dad issues, boyfriend issues, but the way
but they were normal people.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everyone's got their problems.
Exactly.
And they go through the process of falling kind of in love with this guy, and you do too a little bit. You're like, yeah, I can pick up what he's putting down.
Exactly.
Can you
exactly.
dig it? Far out, man.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
And you kind of love it, but then it's a slippery slope. It's one thing happens, you know, all of a sudden they're playing with guns, they're stealing money because they got to get by, and it goes from these.
And it slowly falls in. That's exactly right.
Slope,
it's exactly right. Yeah.
It becomes so eerie, man. There's no spoiler alerts here, really, because it's a true story.
No, it doesn't end well. I think everybody knows that.
It's brutal. Your slope into madness was awesome to watch.
That's so nice of you. I mean, I really, to me, it was about respecting the people that Manson really stole their lives by making them do things that they wouldn't have done otherwise. And in my mind, in order to kind of give us an answer as to how this could have happened and why this happened, which is, you know, it's weird. People often, they know about the murders, and then it's like, how, why, and that's it. They don't really, it never goes any further than that. And to me, when I read the script, I was immediately like, he's got to be the most charming person any of these people have ever met, which was by all accounts what he was. And in order for this to have worked, because otherwise, if, you know, a guy's walking around saying, I'm going to kill people, who's going to listen to him?
Exactly.
You know?
I wouldn't have believed it.
Right.
But in the beginning, you kind of, you feel it. You feel like it is a family. You know, someone who has nowhere else to turn, who can't make you feel wanted and accepted in this world. and I mean, not
and
to
also
mention
hippie communes were like they were
the thing at the
around.
time.
Exactly, they weren't people. You think about these people squatting in an abandoned movie set and stealing food and all this stuff, and it seems so weird. And they're all having orgies and doing lots of drugs, and that was one of 20 that were in a 30-mile radius.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it was this normal thing that this one was led by a really bad guy,
and he's having them experiment with LSD and,
exactly.
and speed and all the mushrooms and all these mind-altering drugs.
Mostly acid. It was a lot of acid.
A lot of acid.
Like daily for a couple years in some cases, acid.
Now, are you a method actor? Or
I definitely I've trained. I went to NYU. I've training. I've had a lot of training in acting, and I definitely went places and did things that I've never done before for this part.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, this guy, you're obviously a really charming guy. I'm sure that part wasn't too hard, but this guy is, kind of crazy. I mean, what is it? Anything special you did to like prepare to become Charles Manson?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I learned everything I possibly could in the time frame that I had, which was I had 2 weeks, which was not a huge amount of time, but I read and watched and listened to everything I could possibly find. So that was a really big part of it, was understanding who he was as a person, where he came from. Also, just we were talking about the time. I think if it had been 2 years earlier, 2 years later, if he was the perfect time. Mm-hmm. He happened to sort of walk into the perfect summer of love in San Francisco in 1967, and it was perfect. And so I learning the historical context and his character was huge parts of it. And then it was I've actually never talked about this in an interview.
Right,
but,
exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it was really difficult to understand. He's got to be one of the most viciously racist people of all time.
Right.
Up there with Hitler, like legitimately.
Because the entire backbone of his cult revolution mindset was this Helter Skelter, the song by the Beatles that he derived a meaning of. There's going to be a race war.
Exactly. He thought the Beatles were talking to him through the White Album.
I mean, don't we all?
I mean, they actually are talking to me, but which is weird because that was many years later. I didn't come along, but they, it's cool. I have a personal connection to it. I'll tell you about that later.
Okay, but don't let us forget these.
Yeah, I know, right? It's gold.
He's totally racist. Yeah.
Yeah. So because he's so racist, I had a tough time at first relating with somebody who could hate someone so deeply,
right,
based on what they look like. I mean, and then I ended up just I googled Donald Trump and I figured it out. No, I'm joking. But
Zing.
Yeah, careful now. No, I realized that I do have. I mean, I think the Trump actually comment kind of is a good example of it. I do understand looking at someone and really hating them, like it's for something that's out of my control. That's and so that was when I kind of started to understand and kind of replace certain things in my mind.
Sure.
Because when you have monologues about how there's going to be an uprising of the Black Panthers and they're going to kill all the white people, and
you really have to believe it.
And you really have to actually believe that.
Yeah.
It's it can be tricky, and especially like the thing I didn't want was that to come off lame and kind of like, because it's who cares then.
Right.
And he had to have so deeply believed in it that he got all of these people to so deeply believe in it and do things like talk about it when he's reenacting the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, with fake blood and the crown. That's real. I mean, like that actually, Manson really did that. He really would dole out acid and reenact the crucifixion, which is like ludicrous. It's really insane. But he would do that and talk about Helter Skelter and this race war and how they had to protect themselves, how they had to teach themselves how to shoot guns and stab people.
You got this militia, this little army,
very much so,
practicing shooting guns, stabbing people, stabbing dummies, learning how to live off the land. I mean, when I was watching his little speeches about how it's going to all go down, I wasn't so much, I guess your speeches, when I was watching you, it wasn't so much like, wow, this guy really hates black people. I just figured he's kind of like a normal racist guy back in the 60s because they were everywhere. Right? Just pretty much normal social, issue that was going on back then. Because you did have the Black Panthers and you had Vietnam and you have all these issues going on. But I think because he was always in jail, it's very segregated in jail. Very segregated in jail. And I was going to say, too, there was a scene where the girl...
MacKenzie? Linda?
Yeah, Linda, who's playing... oh my God, her name escaped me.
It's Linda... MacKenzie Mauzy plays Linda Kasabian.
Yes.
And Linda Kasabian is the one that turns state's evidence against the family.
Linda Kasabian is the newest kind of member of this family who is the one person who isn't quite brainwashed all the way.
Exactly.
Right? She stumbles into your room and sees pictures of all the members of the family on this wall with little descriptions under their names that say enforcer and loyal and all these. And I couldn't help but see that as... I mean, it's kind of a patriarchy in a way, where he's the king and whatever, but it was more like a gang. He was the kingpin of this gang.
It's very much, from a subjective perspective. I think it's interesting you use the word patriarch because he did consider himself and referred to himself as the father. He was their father. He was but he was also their lover, their brother, their god. He was everything. But when it came down to it, when you actually look at it, he was a kingpin that ran a gang.
It was like a gang that you find in prison. So I mean, I couldn't help but wonder if that's where he learned it from.
It's very much where he learned it from.
A leadership in a circle like that.
He learned it from a few places. He learned it from pimps in prison. He would seek out the pimps and ask them how they got their girls, how he kept their girls, and he would kind of pool all that information. He also was a registered Scientologist, so Scientology was a part of it.
Okay.
And then he also studied a course called, it was on the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which is like, exactly, it's like, and to, our parents' generation, they gave you that in school. It was the original self-help book. It was just kind of, it's very innocuous kind of.
Sure.
And, but Charlie, kind of took some lessons from it, if you're really nice to people and you smile at them and you make them think that they have an idea about something.
Inception.
It's, I mean, for real, that's real. And that is like, it does work. And I think, if somebody has really horrific plans for what they can do with that power, it's dangerous. And
it really is. And you see it all the time. I mean, it's almost like it's like a broken record in human society.
It is.
You drop the H-bomb, Hitler's name, he was like one of the biggest ones, but then you have these other small groups. You have Heaven's Gate, and you have Scientology, and you have, it ranges in sizes. ISIS. You have these people who...
it's all about preying on weak people that are looking for purpose.
Exactly.
And giving them, it's great to flash martyrdom in front of people, and in front of people that don't, they're just trying to figure out life. I mean, the basis of the Dale Carnegie book is basically, it's funny, there's a chapter that basically says the sweetest sounding thing to any human being in any language is their own name. That's exactly right.
I got you.
You see, you're with me, man.
I'm with you.
And that is the psychology of that is just because you want to feel important. You want to feel, you want to feel recognized and loved and known and
wanted and needed.
Exactly, all of those things. Exactly.
Some would say that family is the highest purpose of all.
100%. I totally agree with that. And by playing at that in people and being aware that is their subconscious objective in every minute of every moment of every day, they, by really being aware of that, you can do some bad things, because you can go to someone and go, God, isn't life so hard and meaningless, and it just doesn't, you're just running around in circles. What if you could do something that would really make you live on?
And there is always that common theme of radical action, some kind of call to action, because I mean, you see these guys who are just as influential, but they end up being, maybe community church leaders or whatever. As long as the purposes are for good, you never really see it on the news. It's only when something radical happens that it becomes infamous. It becomes a story, a telltale, warning for. Listen, if you have influence over people and you have a purpose, you can get stuff done.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what you're getting done, I mean, hopefully, isn't
murdering people. Right? Yeah. That's the hope. But
So, let me ask this: you're working with all these girls and these guys, and there's a lot of sex in this movie. What was that like, filming all those orgies?
It was.
And this is on Lifetime, by the way. This isn't.
It's nothing too crazy.
Nothing too crazy.
Yes,
it was very tastefully done, but there definitely is a lot of sex, and I think it gets the point across very well.
Yeah, because it's important. It was an important part of the story. It was first of all an important part of the time period, and it was second of all an important part of how Charlie ran the family and how he kept people under his control. And it was they made a smart decision. Leslie, the director, made a smart decision in that she pushed all of those scenes till the very end of the shoot of our time on the ranch.
So you guys were more comfortable with each other.
And we had all kind of very quickly become close, but we were very close by the time we ended up shooting those scenes.
Yeah, I bet.
And it was, because we really genuinely loved each other and had each other. We care, and also because we really cared about the movie and the story. I think part of the reason we all became so close is we were all so deep in research and reading and all these stories, and so we'd come in every day and be like, "Did you hear this? Did you read that?" And you'd kind of be trading all of these bits of information that continued to flush out the story. But
what a fun project!
It was. Oh my god! I mean, it's the best thing I've ever worked on. It's my favorite thing I've ever worked on.
No kidding.
Yeah. It was a real treat to. I mean, it was also it was also the hardest thing I've ever worked on. I mean, I was very nervous about playing a real guy and, all of those things. You just wanted to do it justice. Exactly. And it's also, it's like you said, it's a very important event in American history. And, to be lucky enough to be a part of portraying that honestly. And that's, the thing about the movie is the details are so bizarre. And it's,
Can I ask?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Talking about the details, this is a true story.
It is.
And I was just wondering how much of the movie is actually the true story. Because it seemed like there are details that are like, is that an actual account of what happened? Or is it just to get the movie, get the story told in 2 hours?
I would say it's 90 to 95%
Wow,
true.
Really?
Yeah. It's there's a couple of things condensed for time, kind of like sort of folded into each other.
Sure.
There's some things that are representative of what really happened.
Right, to kind of sum up.
Exactly, to kind of combine a couple different anecdotes.
They did acid on a beach.
Exactly.
Maybe it didn't happen like that, but it happened like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
But everything in the movie, particularly about the murders, about just how it all went down and what went down.
True.
It's all true.
See, that's what makes it even more
harrowing.
Of an exciting adventure to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
As horrifying as it is.
No, you're totally right.
It's like this happened, and when you see them starting to go down that road, you're really
writing in blood on the walls, and
and seeing the actual pictures later. These girls walking down the hall singing a song. Which song were they singing? Were they singing Manson's song?
That's not a Manson song.
No.
The songs in the movie, because I sing a couple, the girls have one, Eden sings one of the ones I sing. They didn't want to glorify his music too much.
Sure.
And they also didn't want to give him any money off of the project.
Okay.
So they
would they have to if they?
It's complicated because he's in prison, so he doesn't. But there's an estate that does, and they didn't want to give them any money, and which I support.
Yeah.
But the songs were written by a young lady named Jamie Floyd who writes for Nashville, the TV show Nashville. She writes the music.
Okay.
And she wrote us 3 songs. And I think she did a really good job because they're not Manson songs, but they're just like Manson songs.
Yeah, they got the style.
Yes, very much so.
I remember they were playing Happy Together. Like, there's a lot of great music.
I love the music. I know. I love the music.
I want to groove out. I mean, summer is coming. I don't know what I should write on. I can't write Charles Manson mix.
Playlist, exactly. I know. People might look at you weird.
Yeah,
just say Charlie playlist and nobody will know what you're talking
about.
Yeah,
Charlie Ward.
Yeah, exactly.
Just total obscurity.
Exactly.
So, did you learn how to play guitar for the movie, or is that something you already knew how to do?
I already played. Okay, I had to play and sing a song to get the part. Yeah.
Okay. What else did you have to do?
They also made you be a part of an orgy. It was crazy. No.
Hollywood.
Exactly. You know, what are you going to do? I had to sing a 60s ballad, so I did You Got to Hide Your Love Away by the Beatles.
Ooh.
No.
There you go. Nice. You got to pick a Beatles song.
Got to do the Beatles.
That was a good choice.
Exactly. Well, also, Manson, it was almost exclusively Beatles that everybody was, at a certain point forced to listen to, because they said they had listened to specifically Magical Mystery Tour so many times that it was starting to actually drive them insane. And, and then, like, an interesting thing is, like, when Charlie would nickname everyone and kind of give everybody new names. Squeaky From. Susan was Sadie. And there was some of them that were weird, and then some, like Leslie became Katie. Like
their kids became like
Zizos, Zadfrak.
Zizos.
Yes, exactly. So and a lot of that was to strip away people's identities from them and to keep them neutral. And it's the same idea as in prisons, by referring to them as their inmate number instead of their name.
Right. Dehumanize them.
Exactly.
Shave their heads. They lose identity.
Exactly.
Become what you want them to become.
Exactly, which Charlie was expert at.
Did good.
And he named Susan Sadie, and she was a stripper before her time there, but then she came there and she was one of the more lascivious ones. And all of a sudden,
Makes
the White
one of those lost girls.
Exactly. And when the White Album came out, they had already been obsessed with the Beatles, and Charlie did that a lot. But when the White Album came out, which is Helter Skelter is on the White Album, and there was Piggies, which is pig, and where all that stuff came from is the song Piggies. Mm-hmm. And Sexy Sadie is on the White Album. Oh. So everybody was like, oh my God, Charlie really is a prophet, because Sexy Sadie is for Susan. That's for Sadie.
So these guys, I mean, they got to be kind of suffering schizophrenic breakdowns or some kind of psychotic breaks from reality.
Yes,
all these drugs and all these things.
But it was also a coincidence. It was purely a coincidence, and he was able to capitalize on it.
Now, how many coincidences are there? I mean, I'm sure that they were, but what I'm actually asking about this one scene where this girl seemed like she had a drug overdose or something, and he leans down, he whispers in her ear something.
They don't explain in the script. It's explained, and in the movie they took away the voiceover that explained it, which was I didn't understand why they did that. But because what happens is she has an epileptic shock, seizure,
right,
and Charlie knew this was a real story. Yeah, Charlie knew that she was epileptic and knew that she would sometimes have these seizures, but that she was okay, like that they would kind of subside and she would be fine. Mm-hmm. So apparently one time she did have a seizure, and he went up to her and started speaking in tongues, and then she came out of it, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is Jesus."
Yeah.
And really, he just he had a little bit more medical information than them, and knew how to use it. So.
No kidding. Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting to know, because I was thinking.
I know I know. I agree with you. No.
Did he? No,
I know it's yeah.
I was just thinking, you were saying, "Yeah, breathe. You're gonna be all right." Because I mean, either she dies or she doesn't.
Exactly.
Either way, he has a reason to be talking to her.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, let me ask you this: you said it was one of your favorite projects you've ever done. What was your favorite part of the movie to film? Or what was your favorite scene? What was the most fun for you?
One of the most fun things was the Beach Boys party in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
because that was so fun. I mean, we were all together.
It looked like a lot of fun.
It was. We really had this house in Malibu, which was so cool on the beach, and we were all just like partying and kind of that was more of a low stress, just fun party vibe, and I think actually it comes across really cool in the movie Cut to the Beach Boys song. So that was probably one of the more fun ones. But then there was a lot.
When you're partying, you guys are smoking a lot of pot.
Yeah.
What were you actually smoking?
We're smoking, oh God, it's like a mixture of catnip and mulch. It's like the grossest thing you could possibly imagine.
Do not try this at home.
No, God, no. Please don't smoke whatever it is they gave us. Don't smoke it, because it's awful.
Because it doesn't look like, it's like thicker than cigarette smoke.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it was also like very hard to smoke. You had to pull really hard and it tasted gross and my lungs felt like charcoal. It was really bad.
Yeah.
But you know, you had to do it because they were all smoking pot constantly. So
there were a lot of things you guys had. You know, on the premiere there was and you would call it a pod buster or whatever. What do you call those things? Like they play little behind the scenes clip. Right,
oh right.
During the movie.
Yes.
There's a little interview with Leslie Libman.
Yes.
That showed your scene where
the campfire
where you're just pumping them up and you're giving this, you know, this rant, and it was perfectly executed. And you guys got up and started dancing to this music that really showed like how like close you were as a family, and also how influenced you were by Charles Manson and drugs.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene. The Beach Boys one was the most fun. The campfire one was, there was something that felt like we tapped into the energy of what it was really like to be part of this family when we shot that scene. And there was like it was right in the middle of the shoot. It was very late. It was 3 a.m. or something on a Friday. It was the last thing we were doing. And there was just this like sense of connection and family and love and support and strength that made us understand the good side of it, which is important to understand to truthfully portray the bad side of it.
Sure.
So that was something it was another thing that I had to kind of substitute stuff that I think, you know, that really gets me going, that I feel. And I was actually kind of a crazy person that night. I was walking around muttering things to myself and getting very angry and
like,
kind of
let's leave Jeff alone.
Exactly. And everybody did leave me. Everybody was like didn't want to talk to me that night.
Just let him get in his zone.
Exactly. It was very strange, but that one was I was proud of that scene when we shot it.
I was loving it, man. You're just shirtless half the time. Towards the later in the movie, you can see. I mean, the change, the shift of the nice. I want to be that guy's friend, Charlie. You know, to Charles, you know, the cult leader. And I mean, you guys are playing with drugs and guns. Let me ask you, those guns. Did you actually get to shoot any? Are they real? Are they?
They're all real.
They're all real guns.
They're all real, but they're all repurposed as props. So a lot.
You got
most
the weight.
Exactly. You can't really put bullets in them and shoot them, but But you do put blanks in them and shoot those. So some of the guns actually do shoot guns still, but do shoot bullets still. But yeah, there were a lot of them were live blanks, and we shot those and. Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't fun. I mean, yeah, it was great. It was definitely fun, and it was also really what they did. So
that's nuts, man.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, it was kind of. You guys went through your own little boot camp.
We sure did, the same way they did.
That's so nuts.
Yeah.
So these girls are still in jail. One died from brain cancer. Charles Manson's still in jail.
He is.
And the only reason why they're in jail is because there's this. They got sentenced to death, right? They got the death penalty, and then that year, coincidentally, it was abolished.
What are the odds?
Abolished. So now they.
What are the odds it was that year?
What do you think about that? I mean, I don't know, not to make it political or anything, but
no,
you know,
we have
this serial killer family. I mean, they killed Roman Polanski's wife, Sharon Tate. That's why it got so big,
much publicity,
which makes me think like. Part of me feels like Charles Manson wanted to get caught. He created a cult, you know, had people murder famous actresses, and then he was the only thing he was good at was being in jail, right? He's going to be in jail anyway. He might as well be super famous.
You're exactly
part of me feels that
right.
What do you think about that? About my theory?
I think your theory is dead on.
I think you wanted to get caught?
I think it's tough because probably, I think subconsciously, because of a couple things. He almost bailed on the family several times,
right?
Particularly after the murders. He almost just left. Like
while they're still in the house killing people.
Exactly.
Let's go ahead and leave.
Exactly. But he almost like went back and then like packed up and you know kind of moved to a different state and was like, I'll just start over.
Maybe try it again.
That's definitely try it again. I mean, that was his idea. But he figured that he had put so much work into this family that he didn't want to actually leave them, so he didn't. But when he got out of jail in 1967 in Oakland, and then eventually went to San Francisco, he was in jail for 8 years for forging a check for $42.
Well, that's a little harsh.
It's a federal offense, and he had already had a record. So because he did that, he got 8 years in jail. Wow. He actually got 10 years, but got out in 8. And at his parole hearing,
that would make me want to do something.
I know. Well, that's the thing. I mean, he was
worth it.
Exactly. And he, and that was a repetitive thing that was happening to him a lot. He was in jail and kind of like, and it was where he became comfortable. And the story goes that in '67, when he had his parole hearing to get out of jail, that he begged the prison to let him stay there, because he did not know how to get along in society.
Wow.
And had spent his whole life in the system and really wanted to stay in jail because he was happy and comfortable there.
That's what he knew.
That's exactly right. And he obviously they turned him down. They said no, and they
he's always getting rejected. Can I have a record album? No. Can I stay in jail? No.
Truthfully, it is that.
Can I get the death penalty? You know what?
No, you know what?
No one can.
That's very true.
And so, yeah, he's sitting in jail right now, probably getting 100 letters a day by anyone and everyone who admires him as an infamous character in history.
Yeah.
If you could have a talk with him, would you? Like, if they're like,
I would. I would. I really wish I could have before. I just didn't have time. I'm. People have asked me if I could talk to him, what I would say, and I know I would ask him if he thought Helter Skelter was real, because I had trouble answering that question myself, because I didn't know. I can't tell if it was completely
fabricated
to
manipulate people,
because he wanted people to, or
if he truly believed,
if he actually was delusional enough and kind of had that many drugs. I mean, I know he wasn't paranoid schizophrenic. I know he wasn't. Okay. Nobody knows anything, and who knows? But
I didn't do as much research.
But truthfully, no matter how much research you do, nobody will ever really know.
Sure.
But my opinion is that he's not paranoid schizophrenic. He's not anything that is, he doesn't hear voices that are telling him Helter Skelter is real. Yeah. I don't think. I think it's more that he kind of was opportunistic in terms of there was crazy racial tensions at the time. The Watts riots have just happened. There's statistics I've read that said every other day for a year and a half there was some kind of demonstration, violent or not, that was about race.
So it was highly believable.
So it was like, when he's saying all this stuff and he's showing you headlines in newspapers in the LA Times that's, these riots and things are happening and the Black Panthers and, it's like people are kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's true,
and a part of me feels like people want to believe something like that's true. I mean, you see it throughout history, the doomsday, people who are,
it's true.
Oh, there's a comet coming to hit Earth, or, global warming, or, apocalypse. You see doomsday preppers.
Of course. Yeah,
there's people out there that will almost kind of want that. They want everyone to go back to zero.
Of course,
and they want someone to follow. So they follow this.
So they follow a small little bad musician, but one that was completely uneducated but wildly intelligent. And
yes,
really,
I got that too.
He was a smart guy. Yeah, he was a very, very smart guy.
Maybe we can get Charles Manson in here next week.
Hey, I'd love to come back if you do.
No kidding. A little bit about you, Jeff Ward, Mr. Jeff Ward. I just like saying your full name.
Please, man.
Jeff Ward. Jeff Ward. What got you into acting? I mean, this movie. I want some awards on your shelf. This was, I'm serious. I'm not just trying to be.
That's very nice of you to say.
Really brilliant biopic. Is that what you call it?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's technically it's a biopic kind of the girls more than it is of So it's hard, but yeah. I mean, yes, it is.
True.
Yeah.
They did a good job of giving kind of the whole story.
Yeah.
Even though it was from
Linda's perspective. Kasabian.
Linda Kasabian's perspective. You were the anchor of the story. But what got you What got
into
you
acting?
Into acting originally.
The first thing, well, I loved movies. I was really, really, I watched movies before I could read and kind of just like quoted them constantly and really annoyed my parents. And
Hey, I talk movies.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know, this is the perfect forum for exactly.
There you go.
I was so I was very into movies, and then when I was in first grade, they did. My first grade teacher wrote a play that was called Tom Thumb in the Toy Room. And so it was like kind of all these different characters interacting in this toy room. It was actually long before Toy Story, and it was actually pretty revolutionary. Mrs. Schneider did a good job.
What grade was it?
First grade.
First grade.
Okay.
Shout out to Miss Schneider.
Shout out to Miss Schneider. What's up? Miss you.
Look how far he's come.
I know, right?
From Tom Thumb. Charles Manson. Boom.
And
Didn't see that coming.
I know. It's weird. Charles Manson was actually in that play too, but he had to get cut. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. I don't know. It's Hollywood. I'll believe you. I don't believe anybody.
But I got the lead because I was very, very short and could play the Tom Thumb. So she gave me Tom Thumb, and I had fun. I mean, I liked it, but I still didn't really think of anything of it really.
Sure.
And but I did know I could memorize lines. So I thought about, I was like, oh. And then several years later, I grew up outside Philly, and it wasn't super cool to try and be an actor outside Philly. So
and play football.
It was big soccer, lacrosse, hockey, a little bit of football. It was sports. Northeast is a huge emphasis on sports. And
you're like, I'm short. You're not that short.
Well, I grew in high school. It wasn't until I was 16. I grew 7 inches in one summer. It was very weird.
I feel like you're taller than me.
It's
my chair. There we go.
Believe me, I feel short all the time. But my grandmother, because of Tom Thumb, was like, do you want to go to this camp? They have this camp where they do plays, and it was called Stage Door. And I never really thought of it, but I had gone to a sports camp the year before, and I was like very middle of the pack at best. So I was like, I'll go to the movie camp. I mean, it was the closest thing to movie camp that I could think of.
Yay.
Exactly. And I went, and I really liked the people there. So I went for a few years. And then when I was 16, I got to do Romeo. I was Romeo in Romeo and Juliet.
Oh.
And it was really cool that they were doing Shakespeare with, kids that young.
Yeah.
And I when I worked on that, I pretty much knew that I wanted to spend my life doing it.
So. Yeah, after a role like that.
It was
work
so
that goes
fun.
into it. If you can really enjoy Shakespeare playing it, for how much work it is, you got something.
I hope so. I mean, and it's funny because it's something. It's really important to me. I love Shakespeare. I really want to come back to doing it as long as I'm doing this. Yeah.
So are you here now?
I'm in LA, yes. I'm a little bit back and forth, but in LA right now, yes.
Bi-coastal actor.
Yes.
You're here now, and you just killed this movie. It's dead.
That's very nice. That's crazy nice of you to say.
Manson's Lost Girls, rest in peace. Jeff Ward killed it.
Your check is in the mail. Thank you.
No, I really did love it. And so I got to ask, what's in the future from Mr. Jeff Ward? Anything coming up you can talk about?
Yeah, I did a movie last year that is... getting close to doing festivals and stuff. It's called The Boy Downstairs. It's Zasha Mamet is the lead in it, and
The Boy Downstairs.
Yes, and she's very, very good in it. She's very funny, and
Wait, it doesn't sound like a comedy. Is there a comedy?
It is. It's
we're on this Charles Manson vibe right now.
I know.
Like The Boy Downstairs. Was he down there? Is he trapped down there? Poor boy, get him out.
No, it's about Zasha plays a girl who moves to New York and is looking for a place, and she finally finds a great one, and it's directly above her very serious ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend.
And that's you?
No, that's not me.
Okay.
That's a guy named Matthew Shear, who's a really great actor and great guy. But and I'm her best friend's boyfriend, sort of.
So we get to see
who's
like a nicer.
Yes,
non-deadly.
Actually, well, he's a non-deadly version, but he's like the biggest. It's hard to come up with the right word.
You just give a facial expression.
Yeah, he's
the biggest
moron. He's just he's an a-hole, and he's very just like such a douche. I mean, can I say douche? I don't know. He's
it's the internet.
Exactly. He's as big of a douche as you could come across. So he's
that must have been fun.
It was very fun,
yeah.
and so I did that. That'll come out sometime later this year. And then I have a play. If you're in Los Angeles, I have a play in LA coming up in May and June called Gruesome Playground Injuries.
Oh, wow.
That is also not as crazy
also
as it sounds. Yeah, it's
Gruesome Playground Injuries.
Yeah.
Gruesome Playground Injuries.
So it's about a guy and a girl that have known each other for it's like 9 different scenes from their relationship over the course of 35 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little abstract because in the first scene we're 8 years old in a nurse's office in first grade.
Okay.
So it's kind of jumps around all through time, but it's a really beautiful play and
that's great. So you still stay true to your theatrical roots.
I do, yeah.
See,
I do.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool to see. I mean, that you truly love the craft and you've been doing a lot of film stuff since you moved to LA. Yes?
Yeah.
What do you prefer? I mean, do you like them both?
So different. They're very, very different. I love them both. I love film for what it is and how precise and subtle and all the amazing things you can do in film. I also think that theater is kind of acting in its truest sense, because it's with a play, by the time anyone's seen it, you've done it 500 times.
Sure.
So it's in your bones, like you kind of and
you're truly performing.
Exactly.
Something about having a live.
It's different.
Audience.
Yeah, it's different.
I mean, we have one.
We do. Yeah, we do, and a really good one.
Hi, Marissa.
Hi, we love you, Marissa. Thank you, Marissa. You were rocking it.
You got your clap sounds like many people there.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing.
It was really impressive. That's great. I'd love to take a look at Boy Downstairs, which is coming out this year. Are they both coming out this year?
Yeah, the play is coming up in the next couple months, and
Sorry, no, we're good. The play is Gruesome Playground Injuries.
Correct.
That's coming out.
Yes, it's coming out. I start in April. We go up May and June.
Okay, May and June, and then we have A Boy Downstairs.
Boy Downstairs is, I'm not sure when that's coming out. I think it'll probably be like late summer or fall.
I'm looking forward to seeing your range.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Is there any like dream role that you have? I mean, it seems like you're kind of picking up on different facets of a crazy guy's personality.
Yeah. I have a lot. I mean, because I'm so crazy into all of this stuff, there's so many people I would kill to work with. I feel like
I mean, would you kill them, or did you get your girls to do it for you?
No, I would obviously get Marissa to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
No,
Jeff's lost girls.
Yeah, exactly. No, I would. The thing I always say is working with the Coen brothers would be a crazy dream come true.
Yeah.
That they're my favorite. My favorite playwright, who's my favorite writer in general, is a guy named Martin McDonagh. And did you ever see the movie In Bruges?
In Bruges.
It's Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. It's about two hitmen. It's really, really amazing movie. It's on Netflix. Check out In Bruges. It's very good.
Check it out.
Yeah, it needs
Right
that plug. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he's a really brilliant writer, and I love him. But truthfully, I think my biggest dream might be Hamlet.
No kidding.
Yeah, in New York they do Shakespeare in the Park in Central Park every summer,
cool.
And it's at the Delacorte Theater, which is like this gigantic outdoor amphitheater, and they give the tickets away for free, and you just have to line up in Central Park.
I love that.
And it's been, Meryl Streep has done it, and every single person has done it. And my dream, almost every exactly every single really great actor, a lot of them that are interested in theater and Shakespeare have done it, and Hamlet at that theater would pretty much be the dream.
Cool. I have no doubt that you'll get there.
That's incredibly sweet of you to say.
From first grade's Tom Thumb to Charles Manson in Manson's Lost Girls, we're gonna see Mr. Jeff Ward in Hamlet.
at the Daily Court Theater coming
Coming
in
to
the
a
year
park near you.
2020.
Yeah, coming sometime soon. Well, this has been an awesome interview with you.
I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So much
It's
for
been
coming in.
super fun talking to you, really.
This guy, Mr. Jeff Ward. Just give it up one more time for our studio, from our studio audience.
For our
Wait for
studio
it.
audience.
Wait
Love that
for it.
studio audience.
Wait for it.
It's
Wait for it.
Hey! Oh, come on. You're too much. You're too much.
Go on. Take a bow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jeff Ward.
Thank you. I'm blown away by your generosity. Thank you.
The actor is Jeff Ward. The movie is Manson's Lost Girls. It's on Lifetime. You guys can find it out there. Keep an eye out because he's playing on some film, Boy Downstairs, and on the stage, gruesome playground injuries. This guy's coming up on all kinds of stuff. I'm Ryan Malady.
Thank you so much, Ryan Malady. You're an excellent host and interviewer, I have to tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really.
Thank you. That means a lot. Before I forget, I want to put you out there on JJ at JJ Ward 12 on Instagram.
Correct. Yes.
I'm gonna go check. I'm gonna go add you right now.
Hey, I'm gonna add you.
I want to see the life behind an awesome actor.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
And you can find me at Ryan Malady, Malaty. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you liked our video, don't miss a single one in the future. And we'll see you next time here at the Popcorn Talk Network.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
Views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.